Hey guys, welcome to Massive Iron Live. Welcome to Friday. It is Valentine's Day, all you lover boys and lover girls. Welcome to Massive Iron Live, the longest running lifting podcast and Q&A in the history of the universe. I'm going to be here forever. I'm going to turn myself into AI and I'm going to be auto answering these questions in 50 years from now. So tune in for that. Put it on your schedule. It's probably going to happen, right? Anyway, hope you guys had a good week. I am on week 3 of my cold. I'll try not to cough. I'm about 80%, but I'm still coughing up a little bit. So how you guys doing? Did you have a good week? I'm anxious to get back into training. So I'm going to be training full speed on Monday. I have a new program. I came up with this epiphany. It's been a while since I had a big excuse me. It's been a while since I had a really big hitter program. And I came up with the idea the other night. I was just lounging around in bed and I came up with this idea for a muscle building program. And I'm going to expound on it a little bit. I don't know about in this video, but, in days to come, maybe I'll make a video about it. Excuse me. Very sorry. But basically, I was thinking about the whole frequency and body part stuff, and I came across a third meta-analysis that basically says there's no advantage either way when volume is equated, and it got me thinking about some different things. So one of the comments that was mentioned in that video was sometimes we think about things in terms of just body part or once a week versus putting everything in, 2 or 3 times a week. And what if we just balance things based on the recovery of the individual muscle, right? So let that resonate a little bit. What if we balance things on our own personal recovery level? Like chest, my chest is usually pretty sore 2 to 3 days, and then by day 5 it has recovered. You might be sore for a week on legs but feel pressured to train them twice a week. So what if we personalize things a little bit and used a little bit more intelligence and structured things based on personal recovery and personal experience? So that's basically going to be the heart of the program. Excuse me, I'm really struggling today with the last tail end of this cold. So anyway, before I get started, I do have 1 or 2 coaching slots available. If you're interested in coaching, please head over to my website. Where is it? Let's look at the assets. You can go over and you can go over to my website, superlivingtoday.com. Hit the coaching tab. And if you have questions, just hit me up. You can email me or hit me up on WhatsApp. I stay pretty full, but in the world of coaching, you always have somebody coming or going. So I always like to stay on top of things. If you're interested, please check that out. I've been selling a lot of PDFs. If you guys need workout ideas, you can head over to my website and search the workout tab. Just tons and tons of ideas. You also have the book collection, which is Massive Omnibus, my book, Massive Iron. Many, many things to equip you. So please check that out when you have time. If I don't die today, I just cannot get the 800 frogs out of my throat. All right, let's dive into things, and we can all place our bets on whether I'm going to die on live TV, live YouTube, whatever we want to call it. Roses are red, violets impassive. Get off your ass and join Team Massive. Happy Freitag, everybody. Freitag. How's it going? I actually had one of my let's go back in time. I also had my lame Roses Are Red, Violets Are Blue poem that I used to share, every I don't know. Let's see if I can save it. Hold on. That I used to share, like almost routinely on Valentine's Day, and then I realized I'm a dork and I just stopped sharing it. But I'm going to share it with you guys. So just hold on one second. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create. Hold on. If I can figure this crap out, my brain is like not doing. Oh, here we go. Custom size. Hold on. Don't go anywhere. I'm going to share with you my amazing Valentine's Day poem. If I can just get this up within the next 3 seconds and my head's not exploding. Here we go. All right. I got it up and I'm going to share. I'm going to download the PDF. You guys are probably running for the doors. All right. We're downloading it. All right, here we go. This is my amazing PDF, my amazing upload from your computer. Take 3 weeks. Here we go. It's uploading. Still uploading. Sometimes life feels like it is slower than it was back during dial-up. Here we go. Roses are red, violets are blue. Don't abuse your body by eating for 2. Tortilla chips are salty. Ding dongs are sweet. Don't eat so much you can't see your feet. All right, that's it. Thank you. I'm done. Have a good rest of the weekend. We're out of here. Big Ernie, how's it going, Big Ernie? Good morning. I've heard you mention run the stack protocol. Can you explain what it is? If you have a stack of weight, like a machine, like a leg extension, leg curl, whatever, and you're kind of feeling very hyper motivated on that given day. What I sometimes do, especially if I'm in using a machine I'm not familiar with, you can use this tool as well. Say you're not sure what weight is appropriate, or you just want to, do something crazy. You could put on 40, 50 pounds, do 8 reps, move the pin up another, do 8 reps. Usually I rest about 10 seconds in between. I don't time the rest, but when I feel like I can move the pin up and do another 8 to 10 reps, and I keep running the stack up, right? Until I get to the point where the top 8 is pretty much capped out. Like I know if I added another, I'd be sloppy or slow. And then you can start to work back down. And like when I work down, I tend to work down in 6s rather than 8. So I'll work up in like 8s and then work down in 6s. You can really do whatever you want. You can do this with dumbbells as well. If you're blessed in a gym that, doesn't have a lot of people hogging the dumbbells or is pretty empty, you can run the rack. You can run up. Like you could start with 10s on dumbbell curls for 8 reps, set them down, shake the cooties out, go grab the 15s, do 10s, set them down, shake the cooties out, do the 20s and maybe the 22 and a halves and maybe the 25s, and just work your way up. And then if you have big juicy cojones on the day, you can work your way back down 6, 8, 10 reps, whatever makes sense for you. It's just kind of a fun finisher. And because you're peaking basically at 8 or 10 reps or whatever you happen to be at, and you're pretty close to failure, definitely near exhaustion, you can, you can be assured that you're getting in hard training. And I would only obviously do this once. That's all you need to do is do this once. What's the longest unbroken spell of bulking you've ever had with a client? And how much mass did they gain? I couldn't even begin to answer that. Right now, you're at the top of the list. I've had some people on for 8 months. I think I might have done a couple 10-month bulks. I don't know how much mass they've gained. I wish I could answer that question. I mean, I've worked with so many people. It's just kind of, you know, I see the long run, like when I'm dealing with guys like Harut or yourself or, anybody I've worked with in the long run. I tend to visualize where they started and when they ended up, and nothing really compartmentalized, if that makes sense. Big soy sauce banana. Just saw Joey Swole's video where a spider almost lands on a dude using a machine chest press. I'm sure that was quite hilarious. Do you have any phobias? I don't have any phobias. I'm pretty good at conquering the things I don't like to do. Like, I don't particularly like heights, but I nearly signed up for airborne in the military. And my mindset was like, how many times you got to jump out of a plane? You're not going to die, hopefully. If you do, that you'll forget about jumping out of an airplane. But I'm pretty good at sitfu, sucking it up when it comes to that stuff. I don't have any phobias. I mean, I have minor things I don't really care for, like styrofoam. When I hear styrofoam, it's the weirdest sound for me. It just like destroys my brain wiring, and I just want to spazzuloid out. But that would probably be at the top of the list. Like when somebody reaches for styrofoam, I plead to Crom that they put it down before I have to hear that vile sound. Yvonne, how's it going, Yvonne? When attempting to prioritize certain muscle groups for a training block, what would you consider a good minimum set number to maintain non-prioritized muscle groups? Okay, so I'm going to break out something funky called the Google Doc. And we're going to look at this. We're going to dive into this really, really quickly. And we're going to look at some numbers because I think you guys will learn more. We'll just call this specialization. And let me just pull this up here. We're going to look, we'll do this in real time. Whoops, if we can. I lost the thing. There's the thing. Got to get back to the thing. All right, present. Share screen. All right. Can you guys see that? So we'll put a font on here that's big enough. So when we look at a specialization block, you want to prioritize something, maybe chest, bench, maybe back, whatever it is. First, we look at the 4 major areas of focus, okay? Back, delts, quads, and chest, okay? These are the 4 major areas of focus. I'm not saying hamstrings aren't major muscle groups, but when you're programming, we look at the major areas of focus. Okay, so we have the rule of 2/3. What is the rule of 2/3? Basically, you figure out how many days a week can you train. Whatever day it is, 4 days, you multiply that by 18 sets to have a starting point for how many weekly sets you would have. Okay. Let's say you could train every other day, 3.5 days times 18. That would be 54. And no, what are we doing? That'll be 63. And then 3 days times 18 equals 54. So we figure out how many days a week we're going to train. How many days can you realistically train per week? Okay. From there, this is just a starting point. So don't get your undies in a bundle. You can adjust if you need to. Multiplied by 18. So how many days, every other day? We'll start here. So the rule of 2/3, this is a rule I created. You multiply your total weekly volume by 2/3, and this will give you the number of sets you focus on for your major muscle groups. So if you train 4 days a week, we're going to have about 48 sets for major muscle groups. and we'll do the thing. So about 12 each, okay? And we can adjust this if needed. We're not going to get too deep into the weeds. But let's say normally you're training, somewhere around here. And you want to do a specialization. Let's say you want to do a bench and chest specialization. So the first thing, because you have 3 other major areas, you probably want to bump this by units of 3. So you could bump that up to 15 by 3. And then because you're moving that up 3 sets, right, you can, whoopsie-doo, drop each one by 1. So all of a sudden you still have 48 sets. Okay. Let's say you want to really do a specialization. 18, you could drop that to 10, 10, 10. We're looking at weekly volume here. So you can see when you jump into a specialization block, you have dramatically increased the amount of work for chest from 12 to 18 sets, but you don't really have to suffer much on the other. So you could do 9, 9, 9, and 21. This would be probably a top level of what I would do for a bench or chest specialization. So you can kind of see you're not really skimping on back delts and quads. You're just pulling back a little bit, but you're still getting in some really, really good volume. So let's say you're this guy right here. You only have 3 days a week to train. And you have 54 hard weekly sets. So 54 times the rule of 2/3 leaves you with 36 sets for your major body part. Okay, 36 sets. We'll put the little things here. 36 sets for your major body parts. Okay, so that would mean we start with 9, 9, 9, and 9. Pretty reasonable volume. Let's say you want to do a bench and chest specialization. Bring this up to 12. You added 3 sets. All of a sudden, you're at 8, 8, 8. You could dial this down to 6, 6, 6, and move that up to 18. So you can see you're not deviating much on the other major muscle groups. This is something you could do when you do a specialization period. You want to do it for at least 3 months, probably 4 or 5 months or so, 3, 4, 5 months. So I hope that helps. The minor muscle groups, you're like, what do we do with the minor muscle groups? So you have tricepticons, you have bicepticons, and you have hammy whammies. Those are usually what we start with on the minor muscle groups. So we use the rule of 2/3 here to determine how many we use for these 4. Now we do another secondary rule of 2/3 to determine what we use for these. So let's say you're up here and you have 24 sets left. You have 24 sets left, okay? 2/3 of that is what class? 16. So we're going to start with about 5. Whoopsie-doo. 5, 5, 5, about 15. And we can, we have 24 total to play with. So we can move that to a nice round number, 666. That leaves us with 6 more sets left. So the rule of 2/3 allows you a little bit of wiggle room. You can put the extra 6 sets on the specialization. So let's say you work training 4 days a week and you use the rule of 12, or the rule of 2/3. And here you do 12, 12, 12, 6, 6, 6, and you have 6 sets left. You could just plow those right on the chesticles and it would work out fine. So you really don't need, when you do a specialization program, to remove from the other areas. It all depends on your priorities. These 6 sets, if you wanted to do other work, You could open up 9 sets there, and you could do traps for 3. You could do forearms for 3, and you could do calves for 3. So this rule of 2/3 really allows a lot of flexibility, and I will say this is a tool I came up with. I'm very proud of this tool. I think it's very intuitive and really rock solid. All right. Hope that helped. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Ice Cold Tristan. Happy Friday, Team Massive. So glad I've gotten a workout in on Valentine's Day just to battle my thoughts and inner demons with some heavy ass lifting. Therapy. Definitely therapy. Shelly, how's it going? Shelly Kleinemann, good morning. Happy Valentine's Day to you. Eric, good evening from Germany. Thanks again for sharing your experience. Thank you for tuning in. Saw your video on splits of successful bodybuilders in the past. Do you know how they dealt with progression? Everybody is really pretty different. I mean, I don't know specifically, but having met many of these people and having interviewed all of them, I think back then, I was more interested in just looking at their splits, and we didn't talk about specific progression. I don't know specifically. I do know that most of them, all of them were incredibly strong. So if you guys didn't see this video, I talk about when I first got into working with muscle and strength. My job was content production. I'd drive around, I'd interview Mr. North Carolina, Mr. Minnesota, Mr. this, Mr. that. I didn't have a bias. I didn't think about it back then. I just interviewed them and asked them their split. I did body transformation stories. 99% of the folks used body part splits, not trying to push them, just telling you the way they were. But they were all incredibly strong. Mr. North Carolina, Joe Arablo, who watches this channel. Thank you, Joe. I remember him telling me when I was filming, he's like, I'm not that strong. And then he did dumbbell benches with 150s without a slingshot. Incredibly crazy strong. Is it fair to say that the stronger you are, the more seldom you train a muscle per week? Well, it really comes down to the individual. We have to always platform things on the fact that the demands of every exercise are different. Every exercise is a different beast, a different thing. We like to, in the lifting industry, and this is a sign of a bad coach, and that might sound offensive, but it is truly honest. Someone that doesn't really analyze lifting is going to lump all exercises into the same pool, right? Train to failure, don't train to failure. Use this progression approach for all exercises. Use this rep range for all exercises. Every exercise, has the same frequency, the same recovery demands. That's nonsense. It really is. So when we look at things, we have to, everybody's different. This is obvious. Some people like to do 4 to 5 sets of squats a week because they feel like they get a lot out of them. We're talking advanced lifters. Advanced lifters have hyper evolved programs based on preferences and experiences. So you might have a lifter that goes in like DC training, does an 8-rep set of squats and then a back down at 20. Boom, 2 sets. You might have an advanced bodybuilder that likes volume and does 5 to 6 sets of squats. So on the guy doing 2 sets, perhaps the recovery demands aren't that great. So 4 days later, he hops in and does leg press, leg extensions, and hack squats. Whereas the individual that might like 5 or 6 sets of squats might need a full week because of the brutality. So we have to always keep this in mind. There are no magic programs, there are no magic frequencies, there are no magic exercises, but there are things we prefer. I like to do on many, many days, a lot of volume on bench press. Why? Who knows? I just like to do it. It's what I like to do. Um, and where we get into trouble is when we try to overanalyze these things and try to overly science them to the point where we do knee-jerk reactions at things that are incredibly brutal, incredibly effective, and that are working for an individual, but they don't make sense to our science brains or our pseudo science brains or the pseudoscience brains of the modern generation. Does that make sense? So our master is always hard training, right? Our focal point is always hard training. In that lane, progressive overload is the fruit. If you are attacking hard training, but you don't have progressive overload as the fruit of your training, you're not training hard. That's going to anger some of you, but that is the truth. You're doing a lot of stuff which might feel intense, might give you a pump, might feel brutal, might make you want to throw up. But if you are doing this stuff in the gym and not producing the fruit of progressive overload, you aren't training for hypertrophy. You're training for punishment. You're training to reach a pump. You're training, isn't for hypertrophy. It isn't for muscle building. It's simply not. You can't stay at a state of homeostasis or you never are trying to get stronger, because progressive overload is the foundation, right? And we like to dumb this down into just doing one more rep or getting a lot stronger. It is doing more than last time, right? It is trying to beat the notebook, trying to beat the app, trying to improve over last time. But more than that, it's training hard and trying to progressively make the stimulus or the pressure on the body greater week in and week out, very, very slowly. If you don't change, if you don't try to make your training harder and the easiest way to do that is by adding a rep or progressive overload. If you don't do that, your body has no reason to get bigger. Your body isn't experiencing new stimulus. You can train like the circus. You can spend a month or 2 months getting your training to the circus act of all circus acts. That to somebody that walks into the gym, it looks incredibly brutal. Wow, supersets and sweating and grunting and yelling, whatever. But your body will eventually adapt to that. Let's say you do 6 sets of 8 on squats with 225. Getting to the point where you can handle that is going to be impressive. And during that period, this is going to be progressive overload. But once your body gets used to 225 for 6 sets of 8 on squats, and you never try to push the envelope, you are done growing. There's no additional stimulus, no additional pressure. You've reached homeostasis. You've stabilized. Your body has adapted to the external forces and pressures, and it's not going to respond. Why would it? The body is it adapts to the specific demands of your program. The SAID principle, it adapts to the specific demands of your program. If your program is never pushing you, then once you adapt, you are no longer growing. Rico, how's it going, Rico? Good afternoon. Sorry, I think I was babbling on a little bit. Is it fair to say that the stronger you are, the more seldom you train a muscle? No, we can't dumb things down like that. Obviously, if you're doing a lot of really heavy squats, you probably don't want to do them frequently. But we can't just simply boil things down equally. It's going to be an exercise by exercise basis. We want to have a reasonable amount of volume in, for every reasonable selection of exercises for every muscle group, etc. Ice cold. Couldn't work out on Tuesday because after Monday's leg workout, my lower back was crying and couldn't walk properly. Now, yesterday and today, I did upper posterior. Sounds good, man. Right back on track. Always think about weekly volume more than anything. All right. Live starts now. I'm definitely back on the caffeine, being sick, so don't hate. Where are we? David. Love the intro music. That's a song I wrote in the mid-90s. I had a tape recording, and then we re-recorded it a year or two ago. So thank you. Big Paul from Team Massive. How's it going? That meant that if I had to drop strict press and machine row for a week so that I can fit 3 days of workouts in, however, I'll catch up. Just keep your weekly volume sane per body part. Enjoyed the podcast you did with Fit Ones with Varun. Thank you. And I did share on Instagram some information from the podcast before. And speaking of which, I am going to share this because I do get a lot of hold on. I get a lot of conversation and questions about whoopsie doozy doo. I almost screwed things up. I get a lot of conversations and questions about body part splits versus frequency training. So I want to listen to this. Okay. This is the third different individual. And I asked Josh to join me because I'm very impressed with him. Josh is from Data Driven Strength. They did their own meta-analysis. This is the third meta-analysis I know of in the last 3 years that has all said the same thing. The conclusion is that this whole frequency and body part split debate, it doesn't matter how frequently you train a muscle as long as the weekly volume is equated. If you want to do more weekly volume, then on a body part split, then by all means do it. But if you're going to train 3, 4, 5 days a week, your volume is pretty much going to be equal. So basically, this is the third meta-analysis that says frequency doesn't matter. This isn't my opinion. And we still are lagging behind in the lifting world. And I continue to tell you guys, hey, we've had meta-analyses that say this over and over again. And people, influencers and whatever, keep trying to dig themselves a hole and try to go back to frequency when there's no validity to it being any better. This is the third meta-analysis. Okay? So I'm going to let Josh speak.
If we were to just control for every variable we can in a training program and just look at the effects of frequency, so the number of times per week the measured muscle is trained.
So he's saying every other variable is controlled. There's no wild horse variables. Everything's the same. The only difference is frequency.
What are the effects, right? Do higher frequencies lead to greater muscle growth? Do lower frequencies lead to greater muscle growth? Maybe there's some sort of inverted U effect where there is a benefit of higher frequency up to a point, but then it's actually worse, right? So anything's on the table. Any sort of relationship is on the table.
So they went in that's completely neutral. This is their meta-analyses, which they'll be releasing.
And basically what we found, honestly, is a whole lot of nothing.
Whole lot of nothing, and I'm repeating that because it's important. This is the third meta-analyses to find out the same thing. A whole lot of nothing.
Right? You could maybe squint and say that going from a frequency of 1 time per week to a frequency of 2 times per week does increase your muscle hypertrophy, but that effect was really, really small.
And he said squint, okay? And he's stressing that. And over the course of 5 to 10 years, that micro advantage, and he's stressing this is a micro advantage, it's going to matter, right?
And then beyond 2 times per week, it wasn't worse, but it also wasn't clearly better.
Now, did you hear that? That's an important point as well. They found out that training more than twice a week had no additional benefit. None. So the idea that training frequently or even training 3, 4, 5 times a week provides some benefit, it provided no benefit at all. None.
Now, again, it's important to keep in mind that that analysis was with everything else controlled for, right?
Everything else was controlled. Everything else was equal.
So how close to failure the sets were.
Okay. How close to failure we need to make sure we understand.
And also the total number of sets in the training week. And that's a really important one because in practice, oftentimes, if you're training a muscle 2 or 3 times a week instead of just 1 time per week, that's also going to increase the total.
All right. So what he's getting at there is how we got here. How we got here was that many of the original studies on frequency training, because they had lifters training multiple times a week, inherently had more weekly volume in. When the volume was equated, like we're doing 12 sets for chest a week, they found, and this is a third meta-analysis, found there's no noteworthy difference at all between body part splits and frequency. Despite this, I'll get attacked for mentioning this. I have no affiliation with these studies. This is the third meta-analysis that said the same thing. I don't care how people train. That's always been what I have taught here at Massive Iron. I'm really proud of that because from what I have seen over my 40 years of lifting, it doesn't matter body part splits or frequency. I have believed this to the very fiber of my being, and I've tried to stress this to you guys. I do not care how you train. I had to turn off the heater. And anybody out there that's going radical. If you believe in frequency training and you just can't detach from it, then go right ahead. There's nothing wrong with it. But it's these zealots and these radicals that are getting on social media and clowning on true science, I find to be a shame. And even a lot of the major influencers still have their trailer attached to this, and they're driving around. Even for everyone from like Dr. Mike to Nipper to whatever, they just can't detach, almost like they feel afraid, even in the face of science. Big Paul, I am a massive disciple and can answer questions for you 50 years from now. We will put what we will do. AI can almost do this now. It can do this now with my voice. But we will train AI to digest all 3,500 videos and every article I've ever written. And then we will have it mimic my voice. And I'll come on here every Friday after I'm dead and just continue to help you guys. So just make sure when I die that we make that happen. We'll have a fake big hairy ugly dude. Kaysan Schultz, how you doing? Welcome aboard. Drop the video on the new program. Yeah, I have to structure it. It's something I'm thinking about a lot. And basically, it's not going to be a new program for everyone. And by that, I don't want you to feel intimidated. We are going to determine the recovery for each muscle group and how frequently we want to train that muscle group based on our goals and needs. And then we're going to determine how many days a week, and we're going to create a structure based on that, if that makes sense, with no interference, meaning you're not training biceps before back day, etc. Hope you've enjoyed the Spurs Cup. It's the only one they're getting anytime soon. Yeah, soccer is starting back up in America, I believe on the 22nd. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. We just dumped, since the FC Cincinnati just dumped their probably the best player in soccer in America, Acosta. I made a form check update on my RDLs in the same place. All right, thank you. I'll take a look. I tend to develop bad habits during my bulk. It takes a month to get my mindset into cutting mode. So I'm assuming you mean by that you're overeating, but I would like some clarification. Big David. My mother and quite a few friends have had a nasty virus going around. Took my mother 4 weeks to recover. Yeah, it's sometimes I'm just in the middle of the day and I'm super tired. So I'm hoping I feel 100% by Monday. Coming back to the gym after traveling for a month, decided to go back to your hard gainer program. I like the lower volume 2-set approach. Was wondering your thoughts on swapping the deadlift for RDLs. You can do that as long as your weekly volume makes sense. When we pull out the deadlift, we have to make sure we still have enough. Back work, because the RDL is more of a hamstring exercise. The function is to drive the glutes back and load the hamstrings. Whereas the deadlift is more of an upper back exercise. It doesn't mean it doesn't load the hamstrings, but we just have to make sure we have enough upper back work. What do you think about the price of eggs? They're pretty reasonable here. So I don't know. I don't really see any issues. I mean, compared to what people are spending on Grubhub and fast food, getting a dozen eggs for like $3 or whatever, I don't really find it, an issue. I think honestly, most people spend way too much money on other things. So would I want everything cheaper? Of course. I will say, I'm just saying this off the cuff. I see a lot of people complaining about the price of meat. Whenever we go to Kroger, we can find tons of meat options that are on discount. All you got to do is toss those in your freezer if you're a little bit flexible. They're not bad options, and you can do with them whatever you want. Even if you don't want to eat chicken breasts, you can make chili or whatever. Big Joe B, what's going on? Oops. Any detriment to only spreading the 3 workouts over a 7 to 8 day period? No. We want to look at about average weekly volume. Okay, so that should keep things fairly reasonable. I can't remember when last I've done 3 500-meter rowing intervals, but I've done one today. Nice work. I don't row, so it's all Greek to me. I don't understand meters in rowing. I don't have any construct in my head of how long that takes. So I apologize. I have some clients that do the rowing. I don't know if it takes you 2 minutes or 20 hours. I know it doesn't take 20 hours, but I think you get the point. Big John, what's your opinion on deficit trap bar deadlifts? Not a fan. Definitely not for building quads. Even though to a degree it's going to hit your quads, that's not a good quad builder. I don't like deficit stuff in general because, number one, as a coach, I understand that most people are struggling with deadlift form to begin with, and they need a lot of work on their deadlift form. Number two, deficits can stress the lower back. So when we combine a group of people that need deadlift work form or deadlift form work or improvement with stressing the lower back even more, it's a recipe for a lot of headaches. And this is a generalization, obviously. But as a quad builder, no, I would choose some different exercises. What's your take on fitness content creators, especially the natural ones that preach only doing 2 to 3? They're idiots. I'm just talking to you like we're sitting across from each other at a bar. No, I know the guys, and the body is fragile. Only do a minimal number of sets. Don't be that guy. That's not the way lifting works. Lifting works as you start at a reasonable place and then you evolve based on needs. You don't fall into some dogmatic tribe where all of a sudden it's magical. We have to be minimal and the body is fragile and we're poor naturals. Get over it. Poor naturals. If anything, this is going to sound controversial, but naturals need to train harder. You want to get to that top level mass, you're going to have to train harder, is what it is. It's the truth. Not easier. You're not a fragile little China doll. I despise this type of thinking. We have to do less and fewer sets and fewer training days because we're just poor naturals. No, you're going to have to work harder because you're a natural. That's not my opinion. That's what I've seen. I've styrofoam thing, but with cotton wool. Even thinking about it, I kind of like certain feelings of cotton. I just can't touch them. I don't like the way certain. All right, where we at? We're continuing on with the minimal. Stop following these people. Okay, I'm just being honest. Stop following them. Stop believing their lies. Stop. The body is not that fragile. We're more reasonable. We're going to start at a reasonable place. We're going to evolve based on needs and not some, crazy lunatic that's the body is fragile and we're natural and we can only train 2 days a week and we're going to die and we can only do 1 to 2 sets. Claim that training 4 days a week, it's not leading to overtraining. Guys, I've been in this industry 40 years. Every natural I know is training on average 4 days a week. No one's overtraining. There's no excessive fatigue. These people are full of shit. And I'm sorry to be so blunt and so animated, but let's stop with these people. They're full of shit. It's nonsense. Unfollow them now, please. In my 40 years of lifting, every natural I've met that's big isn't some fragile little buttercup. They're training 4 days a week. There's no threat of overtraining. There's no threat of excessive fatigue. You're not that fragile. These guys are absolute clowns. They're just clowns. They're fools. They're idiots. They're lying to you. Maybe they believe what they're selling, but that doesn't make them any less of an idiot. There's not a bunch of people, poor little babies out there, overtraining on 4 training days a week, doing 3 sets per body part, and their limbs are falling off and their lives are a disaster. This is the biggest bunch of horse shit. I've interacted with a couple of these clowns on social media. It's not true. You just need to look at the history of lifting. It's not true. One of these clowns said on his Instagram that before the steroid era, right? Before the steroid era, everybody trained with minimal training, minimal sets, and minimal days per week because steroids. And I left a polite comment. I said, this is not true. This is not how Reg Park trained. This is not how Marvin Eder trained. This is not how Steve Reeves trained. This is not how John Grymick trained. This is not true. And he came back and attacked me like I was ignorant. Guys, these people are idiots. There's always going to be fitness people. The body is fragile. You can't do much. You're going to overtrain. Your arms are going to fall off. Excessive fatigue. I lifted 4 days a week for like 5 years, and I was running 12 or more hours a week. Did I have excessive fatigue? Was I overtraining? No. My body adapted just fine. You are not that fragile. These people are idiots. Unfollow them now. There seems to be a general recommendation of men needing to be 10 to 12%. There's not a general recommendation. It's somebody you're watching. Okay. I mean this respectfully. I'm not coming at you, Cosmic Bear. It's one influencer, one or two influencers you're watching. It's not a general recommendation. It's fringe. There's no reason you have to be ultra lean to bulk. There's none at all. There's none. It's absolutely ridiculous. All of this information just pisses me off because it's so full of shit. It's wasting your guys' time on stuff that is complete bullshit. If you look at the history of lifting, and I know because I've been with these people, I've studied, I've done the body transformation stories, I've been around them in the gym. You think the people that aren't getting the 10 to 12% aren't building massive amount? This is body is fragile culture. This is the opposite of freedom culture. This is making up arbitrary horseshit. These people are fucking idiots. They are. There's no other way to describe it because it's not true. It's not true. Have you been to a not you, Cosmic Bear, any of these clowns, have you been to a powerlifting meet? They're not fucking little thin buttercups. They have just as much mass as the guys in the gym. Why? They didn't drop down to 10 to 12%. This is such dumb, idiotic. I'm so tired of these influencers. You guys need to stop following these clowns. This is horrible advice. It's horrible advice. These people are fucking idiots. It's not true. You guys continue to follow people that give you information like if you train more than 2 days a week, your dick is going to fall off. We can use a little humor. If you don't get to 10 to 12% body fat, you're not going to. This is such nonsense. It's arbitrary. It's ridiculous. Using my lean bulking protocol of gaining 10 pounds over 3, 4, 5 months, you're only going to change your body fat percentage by 3%. Why do you need physiologically to be at 10%? Does something magical happen? All of a sudden you reach a hyper state of anabolism and hormone perfection or something. This is all a load of crap. Please stop following these people. It's not a general recommendation. It's the one or two people you're following. And I mean that respectfully. Stop following them. Trying to get low enough to start a bulk. I'm going to tell you, if you guys stretch this out and never get into a bulk, you're not going to be building any muscle. You don't need to get into 10 to 12%. All right, let's say you start at 22%. Okay. Let's say you start at 20%. Let's say you are, let me see if I can pull this up. I'm getting a little fired up today. Where's the calculator? I thought we had it up here. I do have the calculator up. All right, I can't find it. So, all right. Let's say you're at 20% body fat. Okay. Whatever. Let's say you have a lean body mass of 160, you have 40 pounds of fat. You gain 10 pounds during a bulk of 4 to 5 months. You lose 10 pounds of fat. You gain 10 pounds during a bulk. You lose 10 pounds of fat. Over time, you're going to improve your body composition. Oh my God, OMG, hashtag OMG. We didn't get to 10 to 12%. If you never get on to bulking, you're never going to build. You know what? This is something I am dedicated to moving forward, providing you guys with freedom. These people are toxic. They're not only toxic, but they're functional idiots, right? They're absolutely clueless about how things work. Absolutely clueless, and you need to stop following them. I don't care how glistening their abs are, they're idiots. We're natural, but we need to get to 10 to 12. Look how fragile we are, naturals. We need to get to 10 to 12% body fat. And we can't do more than 2 sets per exercise because we'll overtrain. This is so ridiculous. It's beyond comprehensible sanity levels. It just doesn't make any sense because it goes against everything. When you walk into it, let's say you had a mission. You're going to write a book today. Let's use common sense. I mean, let's be real here. You're going to write a book today, me, you. We're going to travel the country and just go into random gyms. And we're going to find the guy, the top dog in the gym, the top natural. So we're going to find that guy. Okay? And of course, you're going to have some people, he's a genetic elite. Rules don't apply to him. Rules, he's a genetic elite. He popped out. Okay. Enough of that. We're going to find the best guy in the gym that worked hard that wasn't a genetic elite. But they're all a genetic elite. Therefore, your argument's invalid, and we can only do 2 sets per exercise because we're fragile naturals. Okay, so we're going to write a book. And we're going to go in a random gym. And we're going to interview the top natural that's not genetic elite. Okay? We're going to ask him questions. Are you doing more than 2 training days per week and more than 2 sets per exercise? Or do you feel overtrained and experiencing excessive amounts of fatigue? That's number 1 question we're going to give him. Number 2, we're going to say, when you're bulking or building, do you have to get to 10 to 12% body fat or else nothing works correctly? That's 2 questions we're going to ask him. So we're going to go into every gym we can. We're going to go on a road trip across the country. We're going to interview 1,000 of these people. Okay? The best in the gym. We're going to ask them those 2 questions. When you do more than 2 sets per exercise or more than 2 training days, you're fragile little natural. Are you feeling excessive fatigue or overtraining? 99.9% of them are going to laugh at you. They're going to be training far harder than that. They're going to be like, what? It's a non-question. It's a dumb question. It's not going to process. There's going to be 1 functional idiot in there out of the 1,000 people who, has some radical rules. And then we're going to ask him the question, do you need to be at 10% to bulk and build muscle? And they're going to be like, what the fuckity fucking fuck? What the fuckity fucking fuck are you fucking fuckity talking about? I'm sorry to swear, that's just the way it's going to be. It is. This is a steaming pile of bullshit. It's nonsense. I can't stress it enough. Stop following these clowns. Stop following these clowns. I'm going to give you the wide path. I'm going to give you the truth. I'm going to give you the honest truth. Okay? You're not a fragile little flower. Your dick's not going to fall off if you do more than 2 sets per exercise. You're not going to have chronic excessive rhabdo if you do more than 2 training days a week. Here's some good news. You don't have to be at any body fat percentage to bulk, and you'll make amazing gains, and there's no difference. Spread the good news. Here's some good news. The body's not that fragile. You could wake up today and not only train 4, 5, 6 days a week, but you could do like I did and run 10, 12, 14 hours a week and feel normal, not lose muscle mass. Your limbs aren't falling off, and the body's not that fragile. You don't have chronic rhabdo. You don't even have to follow these clowns. You know what I learned from endurance running? 2 things. Number one, I'm not going to lose muscle mass. It's almost impossible to lose muscle mass. Almost impossible. I didn't lose any while running. The second thing I learned, the body is the opposite of fragile. As long as you are smart and listen to it, you can do things you could not believe possible. I did. For my 52nd birthday, I came up with a weird idea that I was going to run for 52 hours. So the first question you have is, was it 52 hours straight? No, nobody can do that. The challenge was, I'm going to run as far as I can in 52 hours. Obviously, we're human beings. We're going to need to hydrate. We're going to need to rest a little bit, get off our feet and sleep for an hour. We're going to need to eat, let it digest. So we ran for extended periods of time. And then we ate a burger and rested out for an hour and got off our feet. And then we went and ran some more. Sometimes, a couple times a day, I slept for 2 hours. But for 52 hours, I just kept going. I developed blisters on my feet that had blisters, that had blisters, that had blisters. And when I would go out and run after being off my feet, they would hurt like nothing else I've ever experienced in my life. But after like 15 minutes, they went numb and I pushed forward. I'm not some superhero. I'm just telling you what happened. Now, I'm not a speedy little demon, and I can't go hundreds and hundreds of miles in 52 hours. I'm a 250-pound male. But I ran an ultra on both days back to back for my 52nd birthday. And I'm not trying to elevate myself. And many of you don't give a crap about endurance running, and that's fair. But what I am trying to tell you guys is that this body is fragile culture is lying to you. I'm not telling you to be reckless, and I'm not telling you to train so hard you pick up overuse injuries. This is something I'm very aware of in coaching. But the good news is you are capable of a lot more than you believe. You are capable of wonderful, amazing things, and you're not fragile. Big Joe, when someone, not me, enjoys blowing a disc, Joe's a client of mine, what if any way can someone minimize muscle? You're not going to lose muscle. It's almost impossible to lose muscle. You just have to do what you can do. It's very, very difficult to lose muscle mass. Once you have muscle, keeping muscle mass is super, super easy. Super easy. As long as you're doing something. Our face pulls a delt exercise or an upper back exercise. Anytime you're doing a movement like this to whatever angle, we have a variety of angles, okay? You have a pull here, which is like a classic row, okay? And then we're doing a rotation, and all of a sudden we're pulling here. So you're pulling with your elbows back here, or you're pulling with your elbows back here. I can pull here, and I can feel right now my rear delts. I can pull here and feel my rear delts. To what degree? will vary. But one thing we all need to understand is any form of a row is going to hit the rear delts, right? Just because you move from a face pull position down here doesn't mean all of a sudden the rear delts go bye-bye. Nothing could be further from the truth. So if you want rear delts, big rear delts, your cornerstone is always going to be heavy back work. That doesn't mean that's all you need. But from there, you can add your face pulls or your rear delt swingies or reverse pecky decky or whatever you'd like to do. Thinking about bringing back old school barbell straight bar curls. So it can be an interesting lift as long as your elbows can handle it. I like to start at 8 on those because we're placing a lot of stress. When you're doing the straight barbell curl, it can be hard. I can't even get in that position. Excuse me. So, because it can be harder to get in that position, I would probably start with lower reps, like 8. Going to higher reps, you might place more stress on the wrists or elbows. So, I would probably start around 8 and then evolve from there. Steve, I know they're a stubborn muscle, but what advice would you give to someone looking to bring up small calves? Number one, train them 2 days a week. They're probably going to get very, very sore. Listen to your body. If they're still sore 4 or 5 days later, then train them every 6 days. You want to maximize the frequency you can. Does that make sense? Number two, progressive overload or over a long period of time. You need to attack them progressively with progressive overload for a very long period of time, not weeks, not 2 months. You have to attack them like you're trying to get your bench press up to 315. And from there, you want to do a couple different exercises. Now, we don't want to live in a time under tension world, but we do want to live in a mechanical tension world. And here's what I mean. The calves have a limited range of movement. When you do a calf raise, right, you have a couple 2-3 inches. So if you do a set of 10 to 12, you don't have a lot of cumulative tension on the calves. Now, we're not trying to seek time under tension as a holy grail, but we probably want to find ways to increase the mechanical tension. One way to do so would be 2 seconds up, hold, 2 seconds down. So try to do that on your calf sets and progressively overload in that zone. I hope that helps. What's a good overhead press number I should aim for? Next for you would be 135 by 5 and then 165 by 5. If your flat bench is 225 by 4, you should definitely be hitting 165 by 5 very, very soon. That should be a big goal for you. Unlike other exercises, shoulder exercises are so difficult to progress. I don't find that to be the case for my clients. I'm not saying that's not the case for you. The only thing I'll say is when it comes to presses, make sure you are doing very focused and controlled bulking. I've been on a prolonged bulk. Good, 8 months and 18 pounds is very, very focused and plan to continue for a year's time. Peak weight, where you stop bulking and stop cutting. Yes. In the world of body composition, it's always detrimental to be at the same weight because you're doing nothing. Now, that doesn't mean you can't have a period where you take a break from bulking, right? Because we're human. We don't need to constantly have the pressure of bulking, cutting, right? But we also need to process that if we are maximizing body composition, that anytime we spend not going up or down, we're not losing fat or we're not maximizing muscle. Does that make sense? On the topic of your recent video on body part splits, would you say the Arnold famous antagonistic? Basically, what Arnold did was take a full body and break it up from 3 to 6 workouts. Basically. So that allowed him to train more frequently. Does that make sense? So basically, Arnold took things and moved it from 3 days a week to 6 days a week and split it up. So it's definitely, his is definitely a frequency program, but it's starting to pull us more towards the world of splits. Big Daniel, good to see you, my friend. Are there solutions that I can do to fix lower body dominance other than training the upper body hard, man? That's it. I mean, there's no solution other than that. If you don't want additional lower body size, then you simply stop pushing for progressive overload. But other than that, there's no solution. Get the lower body big. Happy Friday, big hairy ugly dude. Thanks. Any updates on the next omnibus? It'll be coming soon. I'm trying to get out my training app right now, so just be patient with me. I know that's hard to hear, but I only have a couple books left, and I got a couple big projects. So hopefully by summer. What are the key principles of maintaining weight regardless of activity levels? I think one of the keys of maintaining weight is avoiding the pitfalls that come from the abusive end of the spectrum. Excuse me. Like we can have fun where we, having days where we drink too much and eat too much. We're not saying that. But it's the people that routinely and constantly go over and don't have any limitations that are eating on whims. I'm going to eat whatever I feel like tonight, my fast food, whatever. I'm going to drink as much as I want. Maintenance has to have some balance. What I usually talk about as a baseline, and we're not trying to create rules, is one of the best ways to maintain weight is during the week, live like a monk. Plan your meals, be normal, don't rely on whims. On the weekend, live with a little funk. So be like a monk, live with some funk. Usually you'll balance out. Don't be abusive on the weekends. Don't binge eat. Don't binge drink, but have a little bit of fun, and usually you can maintain weight rather easily. Sometimes I feel dumbbell lateral raises in my elbows more than my shoulders. The only thing I could say is focus on driving your elbows up. Don't worry about like having a perfect angle or keeping your arms straight and flapping. Worry about driving your elbows up and really focusing when you do that, focusing on that side delt. There's no optimal volume a week. Optimal is a silly creation. It's a silly construct. There's no optimal volume a week. You take the number of training days you can perform a week and you multiply them by about 18 hard sets as a starting point. And then you divide that up into body parts and areas of focus. And you train hard over a long period of time. And in each season of life, you're going to have a different number of days you can train per week. And that's optimal. Are pull-ups a valid substitute for chest-supported rows? Now, they're both good exercises, but you still have to look at the overall weekly selection of exercises for the back. Pull-ups are a vertical pull. T-bar rows are a horizontal row. So Could you, because they're different, it doesn't mean you can't swap them out. We still need to look at the bigger picture. What's your total back volume per week? I train with my partner and I'm not confident in teaching her to squat and deadlift. Good. Is it reasonable to have? Yes, absolutely. You don't want to. One of the worst things you can do is rush somebody into squats and deadlifts. They're very, very difficult lifts to learn, and they take time. People need to build up lower back strength, and they should probably not be squatting or deadlifting right out of the gate. They don't need to do this. Get them strong. Get them focused for 3 to 5 months, building a base, and then we can kind of worry about things from there. I'll just stick with the deadlift on the hard gainer workout. That's fine. I train hard AF and I don't care a lick about natural limitations. That's fair. They still exist, though. I mean that respectfully. You can't, get as big as Arnold through sheer willpower. But I do want you to train hard. Big Billy Baker. Cheers from the gym team. Just at 20 reps at 215 on bench. Nice work. Billy Baker is one of my clients, and he's not a fragile little butterfly. Nice work. Thoughts on full body 2 times a week. Anything will work. Fine. We always look at weekly volume. I see you have one program like this in your book. Who benefits from this? Somebody that can only train 2 days a week. I'm not trying to be, derivative or dismissive, but the person that's going to benefit from that is the person that can only train 2 days a week. We can't look at pros and cons because the pros are we're lifting and we're progressively overloading and we're training hard. What are the cons? You are doing as much as you can during a season of your life, and that is the most important thing in the long run. Isaac, new client of mine. Congrats, Billy Baker. Thanks for tuning in. Brady. Thanks, Steve, for your time as a coach. Thank you. I appreciate you tuning in. Would you say a T-bar row with a close neutral grip attachment is a lat-focused row? It's more focused on the lat, but don't overthink it, right? I mean, I use more of a neutral grip for T-bars, but, we can't compartmentalize things when it comes to, like, this is all lats and this is all upper back and this is all rhomboids, right? Use a good selection of exercises that feel good for you. A dumbbell row, you're pulling close to the body. Now, if I told somebody on social media that's more of a lat-focused row, somebody's going to have a heart attack. But it's the same thing, right? You can't do a dumbbell row out here, right? Like this. It's just going to feel really weird and jack up your shoulders. So it just kind of services the point that we can't be overthinking this stuff, right? They're compound movements. They don't always fit in nice, tidy little boxes. Just get very, very strong on them. Classic tirade. Thank you. I always start out saying I'm not going to get into a rant. And then some influencer stuff triggers me. Michael, bulking works. I went from 172 to 205, got strong and thick. Yeah, Michael, I work with Michael. He's huge. He's absolutely a beast. Sign up for coaching. Thank you. Thank you, Michael. I appreciate that. Tough love. I love it. Keep laying the smack down. I'm doing it for all of you because I care. I'm, the swearing and the silly words and the stuff and all the humor. I'm saying because I care. And I know calling people idiots seems kind of harsh in 2025. These people are wasting your time and they're filling your head with nonsense ideas. And they shouldn't be at the wheel of a vehicle. I talked to this one big dude that I know in the gym. And he told me that he did 3 variations of horizontal and vertical pulls, and he has a big back. That's a lot of volume, and I don't doubt it for a second. You know, the back can take a lot of punishment, and it speaks to the point where, you know, we have to adjust our volume based on what's happening in the gym and not some fragile little influencer's idea of you know, how we're going to die. Nolan, a client of mine, how's it going? Guys, we have about 5 questions left. I'll stay on as long as you guys have questions. So just a warning, we got about 10 minutes left. Have you used AI tools like ChatGTP? Not to analyze training logs. I do have a subscription. What I typically do is if I have a client that has a lot of information, I will use it as a backup. So what I mean is I'll post the information in there, and then I'll say, give me all the major points and questions. So I still go in and read it, right? And I still go in and do my form videos. My clients know that. But I want to make sure I have a backup and that I'm not missing anything, because I see a lot of information on a daily basis. So I use it as a backup tool, if that makes sense. I was skinny for most of my life. I've gotten from 130 to 170, but I still have a skinny guy's appetite. Do you think it's okay? Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely okay. You want to also consider things like avocado. You want to consider things like sour cream and cheese. You want to find ways to get in fats. You know, ice cream, natural ice cream is an amazing thing. You can get an ice cream maker, use heavy cream, eggs. You can make natural ice cream. That's a hell of a lot healthier than a lot of the junk you find in the stores. So, yeah, a little bit of junk. As long as you're taking care of yourself and your diet's about 70 to 80%, absolutely go for it. Big Jeff, how's it going, Jeff? Thanks for tuning in. Our mobility loss in the ankles after doing calves. I don't know. I don't know anybody that's had mobility loss after training calves. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I just find it interesting. So, is it a bad thing? Only if it annoys you. You know what I mean? I mean, losing a degree of mobility is never fun. So, it really matters the degree and how much it annoys you. Ram, I train 3 days a week, but lately I don't feel sore after the next day despite training hard. Don't make that arbitrary jump. Okay. Number one, are you pushing for plus ones? Okay. Are you trying to beat the log book? Are you trying to improve over where you were last time? Do you have control over your lifts, or are you just ramming out reps? If you're not certain, get some form checks and join the Team Massive Discord. You can find the link in the last couple of days of videos. But there are things we have to analyze before we just jump to more days a week of training, if that makes sense. Would you say that lower body dominant lifters could benefit more from increasing their volume and intensity in the upper body? Well, yes, absolutely. If your lower body is bigger and you have time, do a higher percentage of upper body work. Absolutely. Does muscles feeling like ice after a hard workout mean I overreach? No, it's very hard to overreach. Overreaching occurs cumulatively over weeks and potentially months, where you pick up more and more fatigue and you can't recover. It's definitely not something that occurs the day after a workout, if that makes sense. What's the difference between a lat focused dumbbell row? Okay, a lat focused dumbbell row, you're more pulling your elbow towards your hip. Okay, when you do that, you can really feel an exaggeration of the involvement of the lat. When you're just pulling here, you can feel the lat, but because you're not pulling towards your hip, it's not quite as strong. All right, guys, that's it. I'm going to let you off. We're done. You can go do your Valentine's Day stuff. Get your flowers, get your candy. Come join your chocolate. Come join Team Massive Discord, please. And come back next Friday. I'm here to help. I appreciate each and every one of you. We're going to continue to fight the good fight against all the nonsense and chaos in this industry.
It's not almost over. You're not almost there. You're not almost there. You're not almost there.
Yes, sir. I will be your Valentine.